recording. All right. So, Jelani, you are here. What is up? What was on top there? I forgot. This. There we go. Cool. All right. So what we're going to do is we are going to, let's see here. There we are. Let me put my mic back on. Sorry. It's going to be cool. All right, we're back. What we are going to do is talk about subtractive mixing. So the important part to keep in mind here is that mixes are relative. Mixes are relative. And if you have two elements, A and B, and you want to make A louder, turn B down, right? This is how this works here. I've got A and B here. And let's say I want A to be louder than B. Well, I could, like number 2 shows, I could turn A up. And that makes A louder. But I could also turn B down. And that would also make A louder. And this is actually the correct way to do it because the first scenario here, number 1, keeps our headroom. So we're not going to start crushing our output. And the thing is, if you, the more you kind of keep turning things up and keep turning things up and keep turning things up, the less headroom you have. It's sooner or later you're going to start distorting. If you come back down and if you turn it down, you're not going to have as many troubles with headroom and stuff like that. So it's better to turn B down than to turn A up. And you've probably run into this when you're doing mixes and stuff like that, where you turn things up, and then you're crushing your output, and you're like, I don't like, why am I doing that? And it's because you, first of all, you're starting too loud in general, and second of all, you keep turning things up instead of turning things down. So remember, mixes are relative. And this is why these two things are super, super important that we're talking about today. One is that mixes are relevant, and two is that, mixes are relative, and two is that you start with your low frequency stuff. If you do that with those two things there, then you're going to have good mixes. And this is like almost instant good mixing techniques, and like instant good mixing. As soon as I figured this stuff out and I learned about this and I wrapped my head around it, my mixes leveled up 100 times better than they had been previously. It was like up until that point, it was okay. I was having some fun ideas and stuff like that, but I wouldn't call myself a professional mixer. Those songs didn't sound professional. And then once I realized about these two elements, my songs started sounding more and more professional. So super, super important to keep that in mind. When you're mixing in new elements, adding a new sound to a mix, start with the levels down, then turn them up to fit the mix. This will help you balance it with the other elements more easily. So let's check this out over here. Let's go over here to this. And in here, I don't need to see this anymore, I think. Okay, so I'm going to turn off my vocals. And let's go ahead and just mix this again, some of these things in here. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to turn my guitars. Let's leave my guitars down. I'm going to pull those down. And the bass here. So there's my drums. Now let's pull my bass up into things. When you pull it up like that, you can hear it coming into the mix better, and you can hear how it fits inside the mix a bit better. If I started with it just here at 0 and it's harder to hear where it needs to go in the mix. But if I pull it down from nothing, you can listen to that. And it's the type of thing, it's also, this is really good for when you're adding in like background noises and like room sounds and stuff like that. Let's go over here and listen to my drums here for a second. I'm just gonna go ahead and get the clean sound of our drums. Here's what our drums sound like clean. And I'm going to turn this room off. Whoops. There we go. So there's without the overhead. Hear how that comes in? So what we can do is we can pull this up into the mix and listen to it with everything. And what I like to do is I'll like make it a little bit loud so I can hear what I'm listening for. So that's the room sound right there. That's what the room sound sounds like. And you can hear it coming in, but I don't want to make it too loud. I don't want it to be too much room sound. Yeah, and that sounds pretty good. And let's pull in the drum comp. Here's what that sounds like. You can hear it's giving sustain to things. And this, why does this have automation on it? Why are you automated drum comp? Oh, because in this part here, oh, I did it like that. Interesting. Very unlike. Oh, I must have been showing y'all something. It must have been I'm making a point with it. I wouldn't usually do. I wouldn't usually do the drum comp like that. Cool. Just move this over here like this. There we go. Cool. Got my. I'm going to put a trim plugin on this so I can go ahead and mess with it here. I'm going to go multi-mono, other, trim. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and automate this. We talked about how to do this before. And I'm going to automate my trim plugin so it looks the same as my volume here. So I'm going to bring this automation down here. I'm going to go to my gain on my trim plugin. And what is this? This is minus 59.2. Pull that down. So it's like basically the same. And then we'll put a little dot there, get rid of that dot there. Put a dot there, get rid of that one, cool. And now I'll go in here and get rid of that. Sweet. So now I can do my automation on my volume here instead of the trim. So I'll go ahead and put that up to 0. That's way too loud, right? But that's what we're listening for. Hold on. Let's go back to the beginning. All right, so there it is without the compression. Let's add this compression in. So we like what we hear. And then let's listen to this distortion. That's the distortion. And when you pull things up from the bottom, it helps you to hear when it's coming into things a little bit better. Yeah. I can barely hear it in there. And this is, whoops. Cool. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, I like that in there. Sweet. Cool. And that's what I mean by that. And this helps you to kind of like be paying attention to your elements a little bit better. Also just training your ear. After you've done this long enough, your ear will get trained a bit better and a bit better and a bit better. And you'll be able to hear these things a little bit more. All right, so let's listen to the drums and the bass. Sounds good. Let's pull these guitars in. Cool. All right, that sounded pretty good there. So, and that's how you would, a good way to build up the mix there. All right, balancing that out. Okay, so let's go over here and talk about pre-fader metering. Pre-fader metering, and this is something that if we were actually at school, we would have talked about this with the audience already. So pre-fader metering, what this means is that it shows you the meter before the level of your fader is here. So for example, right now this is under options, pre-fader metering is turned on. So what we're looking at here is the recording level of these. So you'll notice that when I turn things all the way down, it's still going to show us level here. So if I go over here to my bass, for example, right? We can't hear the bass, but we can see the bass. We can see that the level is happening on the bass there, right? But if I turn pre-fader metering off, now watch what happens. The meter follows where my fader is on here. So if I turn it down, it's reflecting the level after it's reflecting the amount of sound after I've adjusted the fader as opposed to before I've adjusted the fader. So that's what pre-fader metering is when you turn it on and off like that. So again, keep it on during recording and keep it off when you're mixing. Solo safe. Okay, so solo safe is the way to do it, and we've talked about this before, is you click the solo button. So you click the solo button with a command key. So you hold down your command key and you click the solo button and it does it. Anything that you want to have stuff playing through always, then you want to make sure it's solo safe. And that's like pretty much everything that's an aux track you want to solo safe. You never want to solo safe audio tracks because, like for example, if I just want to hear my drums, let me just scroll over so we can see my drums. And my drums are grouped so I can hit the solo button on them. Right, so I can do that. But if I have my bass, for example, if I have my bass over here solo safed, if I hold down command and click the solo button on my bass, no matter what I do with my drums, I can hear that bass. Or if I turn on solo, that bass is still playing. And you don't want that to happen with an audio track. With an aux track, it's fine because you want to continue to hear the reverbs and stuff, but you do not want to have your audio tracks be solo safed. So make sure you have that off for your audio tracks and on for your aux tracks. Cool. And I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory, but if you do have any questions, please ask me or wait until later and we can talk about it because there's just so much lag with Twitch. And I even have the low lag button clicked on my Twitch stream. So yeah, we're about as low laggy as we can get. And I have a Fios, and they kicked it up to gigabit for free for like the time being. So it's like the fastest Fios you can get for non-commercial, and I've got Twitch turned to low latency mode. So this is about as quick as a feedback as we can get, unfortunately. All right, now is the part where we talk about subgroup mixing, and this is basically the rest of the lesson is going to be talking about this. Subgroup mixing. Let's go ahead and look at this first. All right, so this is my little description of subgroup mixing, and this is where I compare food, cooking, and food to mixing it's music. And it's an interesting comparison, and I want you to get this because I think it works well. But be warned, if you're hungry, this might make you more hungry, or it might make you less hungry, depending on things. I'm not going to go too detailed here because we're just not in class together. But subgroup mixing. So here we go. Subgroup mixing allows grouping of similar instruments within a mix. Why learn it? Actually, you know what I want to do? Go.